podcast. And today I've got David Scott, who's the Managing Director for Skills for Security, who's going to take us through his career journey, which goes from being a professional goalkeeper right through to obviously being the Managing Director of Skills for Security, as well as being an engineer, as well as being a lecturer. It's quite a diverse path, I think, David, to get to where you are now. So when you first left school, you went straight into professional football contracts, is that right?
Left school at 17 and I ended up joining full-time with a football club called Clyde Football Club, and they were in the first division back then. One of my sort of claims to fame, I guess, is that I was in the squad for Roy Keane's debut when he made his debut for Celtic.
All right.
So I was part of that team that played Celtic Football Club and actually beat Celtic in the Scottish Cup. So I never physically played, but I was part of the squad and got to see Roy Keane and a few of the other big famous players. But yeah, I left school at 17, became a professional footballer and as a goalkeeper. And I stayed there for about 18 months full time, and then realised that if I really wanted to follow football as a career, I was going to need to step down a few levels and get some experience. So I joined a football club called Albion Rovers in Coatbridge. Just these two clubs are specifically quite famous in Scotland. They've got some real history behind them. And I played for Albion Rovers for about 3 years, and I made 90 first team debuts, or first team appearances, sorry. And probably let in about 180 goals over my career as well. But I played 90 games and played against some top level clubs, and I got the opportunity to go to a higher division, a step up to a club called Brecon City Football Club, sorry. And I joined them in the second division, hoping to make more games, grow my career. And what happened was I sat behind a very experienced goalkeeper called Craig Nelson, who had played with Falkirk, Hearts, was in his mid to late 30s. And I stayed at Brecon for 3 years and mainly sat on the bench, made the odd appearance here or there, before deciding that football really wasn't for me. But when I went part-time, I had to find a career. And find something that I could grow into, develop into. And I landed myself a job in a call centre, believe it or not, working for Dell Computers.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So I basically sold insurance and warranties for 6 months. And talking about mental health nowadays, it tested even me to my limits. I remember some of my darkest days being working in that call centre, to be honest. And then I always had ambitions of growing and developing as a person, but didn't really know how to do it. And then I decided to leave the call centre, and I got offered a job as in the Devro. It's a sausage making factory, selling sausages. And I remember leaving the call centre to move to the sausage making factory for £1 extra an hour.
That's not on your CV, the sausage making.
Because I never started. The day that I was meant to start, my uncle phoned me, who was the manager with a company called Forth Electrical Services.
Yeah, I know Forth Electrical, yeah.
And Fez basically said to me, look, huge opportunity here, would you like to come in, act as a labourer, pull some cables, fit a few devices, you'll get all the training you need, rather than doing the sausage skinning. So it was a no-brainer for me. I was a little bit older than most people entering their sector. I think it was about 19 at the time, the time I left the football. So I joined at 19 as a labourer in fire and security sector. And my career sort of flourished from there. It wasn't until about 2 years later, working as a labourer, that we found out that there was an apprenticeship in our sector. So I then, after 2 years doing the labouring, joined the fire and security apprenticeship with Motherwell College at the time, which happened to be ran behind the scenes and accredited by Skills for Security. So obviously I started my apprenticeship in about, I think it would have been about 2018, 2019, as a fire and security apprentice with Skills for Security. I spent 3 years at Motherwell College completing my apprenticeship, and I was a little bit older than the rest of the people I was in class with, so I was maybe in my 20s at this point. There was a lot of 16, 17-year-olds, and at the time I asked my tutor how I can be better, progress faster, do more, and he had suggested that I opt for to do a management and leadership degree or diploma or something along those lines. So I had fantastic support from my family back then, and obviously still do, but specifically back then, they paid for me to do an online diploma in management and leadership at sort of level 5. So that was 2 stages above the fire and security apprenticeship. So as I was doing apprenticeship, playing part-time football, working a full-time job, I was also studying for my management and leadership diploma. And that was about 2 years in line with the apprenticeship. And when I became fully qualified in 2011, I think it was, my diploma in management leadership also finished. So I left my apprenticeship with quite a high level of qualification, backing it up.
That's good. And that, and so, because you then went into the college, because as my memory, the colleges in Scotland were very, very supportive of the apprenticeship scheme, probably more so, I would say, than what was in England at the time. So you finished that the fire and security apprenticeship. You had obviously the diploma, and then you went into lecturing, or you went more into down the educational route as opposed to staying in the fire and security industry. Well, I mean, you are in the fire and security industry, obviously, but rather than progressing to be an engineer or a salesperson or the typical path that would. So, what made that decision?
It wasn't a decision I necessarily made like deliberately. The college were hugely supportive of me when I was doing my apprenticeship, so they funded for me to compete in the Engineers of Tomorrow competition.
Right.
So
Okay.
they paid for me to go to Birmingham at the time at IFSEC and compete as an apprentice in that competition.
Did you win?
Which I won. So the college, not only did they support me to go, but they held me on this sort of pedestal of being the best in the UK, which then when I left with the apprenticeship, the award and the diploma, a job came up for a lecturer, and it was a temporary position, but because of my age, I had a really low mortgage at the time, I decided to take a punt at it. And I joined in December 2011, having only qualified in August 2011, but obviously worked in the industry for about 7 years. So overall, I'd a great deal of experience fitting and doing all the technical elements of the sector. So for me, the college had supported me greatly, and it was almost like an opportunity to give back at that young age.
Yeah.
And when I think of the fire and security sector, it changed my life, because obviously I didn't have a career, I didn't have prospects. All my friends were lawyers, accountants, doctors, and I literally played football for 18 months, left school with no qualifications. So when I thought the best way I can influence other people, change the mindset of this sector, was by growing and joining as an educator.
And was you then lecturing, teaching the fire and security business, or the wider sort of building services side of things? Was it?
No, I specifically went in to be a tutor of fire and security, and done that for 3 years full time before stepping up into what they called an innovation lecturer, which is where I started to work in other sectors, construction, built environment, not specifically as a teacher, but I ran charitable projects for the college as well as teaching. So we done some charitable work for the YMCA, Women's Aid. So they came to me and said, look, we can't afford to do building work or fit a CCTV system in our new premises. And we basically gave them the labour to do so. And we also secured the sponsorship from like Axis Cameras. They donated all the cameras to the YMCA in Bells Hill to basically for our students to fit it as part of a charitable project. And the same with IKEA, they donated discounted furniture, which our apprentices then built the flat pack furniture and delivered to the Women's Aid and fitted in all of the Women's Aid premises. So that was my first step into a more leadership position at the college. And I'd done that for about a year or 18 months and then moved into management, where I managed the engineering faculty and had responsibility for thousands of young people and 40 apprentices. Actually, strangely, the responsibility was more at the college in terms of students and staff than it is at Skills, although it is changing quite dramatically because we've grown hugely over the last couple of years. So, yeah.
And then, so how did that then? Because you was there for quite some time at the college, weren't you? So a number of years. And then how did you get then to come into Skills for Security? Because I know that there was a lot of changes at Skills at the time, because it probably wasn't as prolific. Well, it certainly wasn't as prolific as it is now, and it wasn't developing the younger generation as it does now. So how did that come around?
So in the heyday at the college, we had probably more apprentices in that tiny little village than the whole of England combined. And if you know Motherwell College, it really is in between Glasgow and Edinburgh, so it's well located in terms of accessibility, but it is quite a small village, and we had about 200 odd apprentices back then, and that was in 2018. And what happened was that we were probably the first to run these sort of regional competitions for the sector, and I was heavily involved in engaging with the BSIA at the time. We also engaged with CSL and Texacom and a number of other of the sort of large manufacturers. And when we started running these regional events, it was very well supported from the sector, and the likes of Simon Banks visited and supported the initiatives that we were running. And we've done that for maybe 3 years, these regional competitions, 2016, 17 and 18. And in the third year, NSI, BSI and CSL came, and I got shocked talking to them, and the conversation fell around, well, why is England not as successful or not doing these initiatives, or why are they failing to hit their full potential? And I was sort of made aware that there might be an opportunity at Skills for Security that obviously I jumped at, not because of any financial reason. It was actually because I felt it's the best place for me to change the sector, influence and make a positive impact on a career that gave me so much at the start of the beginning of where I wanted to start. So, yeah.
I mean, it's certainly from an outsider looking in on that Skills for Security, it's certainly changed dramatically. Pretty much, I guess, since you've been at the helm. And we've seen that, again, into the, as we mentioned earlier on, that the Motherwell College, Scotland was supporting the apprenticeship scheme a lot more than England. But that's now rolled through the whole of England, and there's a lot more colleges and a lot more support and advocates.
Yeah, so when I started in 2019, we only had 100 apprentices at Skills. We've now got we'll probably get close to 600. So I've been saying, we've grown 500%. It's actually probably closer to 600% right now. Yeah. And we've obviously had some real huge challenges over that period. We were in lockdown for 2 years, where all of our curriculum was being delivered remotely. We have grown massively. We've went from 9 staff to over 50. So we're no longer considered a small business, we're a medium-sized business. And we've got staff, honestly, across the UK. It's really, really quite scary. We've got staff in Southampton. You'll learn that about me, Brett, that my geography's horrendous. So we've got staff in Southampton, London, Birmingham, Sheffield, Warrington, the northwest area, and we've got 3 or 4 staff in Scotland now as well. And the company in itself has grown, but with that, the amount of apprentices across the UK has grown. And I'm not by any means saying that that was down to myself, but through the partnerships that we've had with the likes of World Skills UK,
Yeah.
we've been linking up with other nations and other colleges and other providers that deliver the fire and security apprenticeship, so that there's sort of a combined effort to everything that we're doing. And over the last 3 consecutive years of competitions, we've had about 600 apprentices compete across like Northern Ireland, Scotland, Northern England, Southern England and Wales in the World Skills UK competition. And it's just that it's been a fantastic journey to be part of and watch and sort of facilitate. But the fact that we've now got all like 4 nations involved in a sort of a really high standard of competition, with changing the lives of almost 600 people, is like for me where it's at, and how we can change mindset, bring new young people into the sector, because competition, digital and technology are 3 aspects of interest to a young person. And when we go into schools, it's much more productive being able to say, do you know, there's a competition in our sector and you can win £1,000, you can be a world skills champion, rather than saying, do you know, you can come in our sector and you'll have a great career. It doesn't have the same punchy. You need to be able to sell it to the kids, and I think competitions plus technology plus digitisation of the world is what's attractive to young people right now.
What would you say is the? I mean, again, it's a fantastic job you're doing. What would you say if you're going into schools and obviously promoting the security industry, the fire industry as an apprenticeship? What would be the most competition for those young people coming into the industry? I mean, again, are they looking for more digital stuff?
It depends where you live, in all seriousness, because if you're in the northwest or northeast, typically school kids grow up believing that apprenticeships is a very successful career choice.
Yeah.
And quite rightly so, 100% is. If you grow up in the south, and I mean London and southern, more southern, you grow up thinking that the only path, the only way to success is through degrees. And we attend national apprenticeship shows across the UK. We attend careers fairs, and you attend these in the northwest and everyone's looking for an apprenticeship. You attend in the south and everyone's looking for a degree. So that our biggest competition is changing the mindset of people so that they can see apprenticeships as a career of choice.
Yeah.
But for those in the northwest and northeast, the biggest competition is that no one knows that the fire and security is a viable and really successful career. And that is exactly the mindset that we need to change as well, that the fire and security sector, you're actually more likely to be walking about with a mobile phone, a tablet and an iPad than you are with a screwdriver, a pair of snips and a heavy tool bag. And it's about making people more aware that by coming into this sector, you walk away with skills that can be across any sector, whether it's like cyber, networking, communications, digital, electrical. You basically pick up really high level of skills that can be used cross sector when you qualify. And I can't stress enough, I don't know how many apprentices I've been involved with. It would be probably thousands that I've taught from start to finish. But I've got a few that I still speak to. And some of my apprentices are now business owners.
I was going to say, what are the success stories? There must be a few success stories where people come in as a 16, 17-year-old and you say, like, now business owners and...
Yeah. So one of the most successful, the one I hired, is Daryl Gilmore. I don't know if you know Daryl.
I know the name, yeah.
Well, so Daryl's dad is the operations manager or director at King Secure. He runs the Scottish branch, and he has a son called Daryl. And Daryl worked for King's, Marlow, and somebody else, whose names escape me. But I taught Daryl for 2 years of his apprenticeship, and the best student I'd ever and have ever met. And so I then, when Darryl qualified and he went and worked with Marlow and a couple of the other companies, we had a tutor position open up, and Darryl applied, and I brought him into the college as a tutor. And he just progressed, done amazing, really technical mindset. And Darryl then joined me at Skills for Security. He's now
Right.
technical director, and he looks after the curriculum to make sure that the content of the curriculum is to the right standard that the sector requires. But other people that I've worked with and I still speak to we done some analysis actually just last year. 80% of the apprentices that qualify either move into a more senior position within 3 years of qualifying, or set up their own business within 3 years of qualifying. And some of the most successful apprentices are those that have actually moved out of the sector but into related sectors.
Yeah.
So I've got students that have upskilled themselves in a CISO, which is obviously related to cyber, and in really
Yeah.
senior positions. I've got students that finished the apprenticeship and then went and done an electrical apprenticeship to upskill themselves even further. And I've got even some really close friends that I've taught in the past who set up their own businesses and are now acquiring other small businesses and are turning over millions of pounds and really profitable businesses. So the apprenticeship in this sector, it's got so many case studies and positive messages. It's hard to target, but it is a fantastic industry to work in.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I mean, I mentioned it before with Ian Moore. You know, again, when I was an engineer, I mean, I was started in security and then on the fire side. But someone said to me, "You'll never be out of work." And again, from a recruitment perspective now, without a doubt, there is still the skill shortage. Of course, there is, and the apprenticeship does address that. But the sector is so wide and so broad that people coming into it will never be out of work, without a doubt. We need to get more engineers to look more towards a sales career as well. There's a middle gap there that needs to be addressed. Maybe Skills for Security should be doing sales training, or maybe you are.
Well, strangely enough, we are looking at it because it's a request we get quite a lot, believe it or not, is that there isn't a sales qualification or sales programme specifically for our sector. And it's came up on a number of occasions. We are doing a survey and design sales course, believe it or not, but it's more targeted at graduates with a sort of survey background that we then upskill to do the job in this sector. But we did some analysis over the last few years around the skills crisis because, like you say, there is this gap in training for sales, but there is an ongoing crisis that's very well talked about in the sector. And the things that we were able to identify is that there's a shortage of around 30,000 engineers across the fire and security sector. And what's driving that is the fact that so many people are retiring. So many people are leaving the sector to cross sectors in electrical and comms and networking. Some are moving into management rather than engineering. And there's about 100,000 people working in our sector. And when you look at the ratio of engineer to apprentice, it's only around 1%, 1.5%. Now, if you relate that to electrical or plumbing or carpentry, the ratio of competent tradesperson to apprentice is around 5 to 10%.
Right,
so
okay.
Not only have we got this skills crisis of 30,000 people needed to join the sector, but it would take us 25 years on the current numbers to actually eradicate that skills shortage. So we know that we need at least another 5 times the amount of apprentices in the UK, if not 10 times. And if every single company recruited 10% ratio of engineer to apprentice, then we would eradicate the shortage in 3 years.
Wow.
So the message that we are telling all of our partners and employers, recruit 10% ratio of workforce, tradesperson to apprentice, and you will contribute to eradicating that shortage in as little as 3 years. And a lot of the big players are doing it now. Mighty have now got 40 or just about to have 40 apprentices with us. Marlow have been doing it since we started our
Yeah.
partnership, about 20 or 25. Thompson, Scooter, TIS, EFT, all of these companies have now got academies with us that we help them grow their
Mhm.
workforce to meet that demand, and it's working really, really well.
I've got another stat for you, by the way, as well. So by
Go on.
2025, the overall workforce will be 25% smaller
Wow.
due to birth rate. I mean, this is an ONS stat due to birth rate and obviously people retiring and everything else. So that also impacts the skills shortage. I mean, that's across the board. That's not just
Yeah.
the fire and security sector, but yeah, it's
That's what I was considering. There was a baby boom during during COVID.
yeah, they're not there yet, are they? There's a few,
You've got a long way ago.
they're a
I
few
can
years away yet from picking up a screwdriver.
I contributed to that quite a bit as well. We had two COVID babies, so
Oh, yeah.
aye.
And so, with coming back to your career, then coming through the industry, is there any one particular person? Again, it's a question I'll start to ask everybody. Is one particular person that's influenced your career, apart from your uncle that got you into it in the first place?
It's funny because obviously there's been a lot of people influence me, and I know how fortunate and how lucky I am in general. I feel very privileged of the opportunities I've had, and I've worked hard, but
Yeah.
I've obviously been very, very lucky, and I feel lucky. My uncle it was just an opportunity, but I made something of that opportunity. And I
Yes.
think that's what's important for young people to know, that opportunity is one thing, but like effort, hard work, and attitude is three other things that need to go along with opportunity. So my uncle's one, obviously, the people at the college that supported me and helped me grow, because without the development and stuff like that, I would never have got into management and never actually been given the opportunity to then grow his skills. And obviously family's been a big influence, and friends.
Yeah.
If my friends were lawyers and accountants and whatever, I probably wouldn't have had the same drive, but I always wanted to be better because of their success. And the person that's probably influenced me the most is probably Simon Banks, believe it or not. I've known Simon for at least 7 years, but he's changed my life, my family's life. He's an inspiring person to work with, and a pain in the backside
I'll bet.
sometimes. But he's obviously chairman of our company. He's now an investor in our company. And that's only happened over the last 6 months. But I've known Simon for about 7 years now, maybe even longer, to be honest. And he's absolutely influenced and changed my life and helped me get to where I am and where I want to be as a person as well.
No, good. I might even invite him on the podcast. You never know.
I will. He would love to do this. Love
I
it.
bet he would. I bet he would. And you've recently, the skills for security, you've recently won an award, haven't you? I saw that on
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
it is sitting there, by the way.
You said earlier. Yeah.
I
Fantastic.
moved it over.
Yeah.
And
Um,
as I said before the podcast, my geography is terrible, so I do have a map here just to keep me right. But yeah, we've had a really strange year because we've grown again about 75%. So we went from last financial year to about 300% growth. We've then added an extra 75% on that. And normally, as you're very well aware, when someone grows to that level, what happens is quality starts to slip.
yeah.
And I'll be honest, I fully expected quality to slip because it's very natural, very normal. And my goal as a director is obviously to try and maintain that growth, maintain the quality, and keep things in a level playing field. And we got an inspection in October, which we'd feared for years, from Ofsted. And Ofsted inspect all colleges, training providers, and basically hold you under the education inspection framework. And you either get one of four grades. You get outstanding, which only sort of 3% of
Yeah.
training providers ever achieve, and you need to be a certain size. There's grade 2, grade 3, and grade 4, and obviously you don't want to be a grade 4. That's almost a shutdown. Grade 3 is areas of improvement, and Grade 2 is good, and that's where almost all training providers sit. So we, after 500% growth, after a pandemic, we managed to maintain our good provider status from Ofsted, which was fantastic. We then submitted a bid to the AAC award for the Engineering and Manufacturing Apprentice of the Year category, and we won it on Wednesday last week. So that is a really nice end to what's been a fantastic year already. And what's even better is it's probably seen as one of the most prestigious awards in the sector because, and as you're well aware, engineering and manufacturing does hold itself above all other sectors in terms of sort of quality. And to win that on our first year of trying was really, really quite a special moment for the team. So
against competition, I guess, as well.
Yeah, the company, there was 360 entrants to that, and on the night it's between us and MTC, and MTC win it year on year, every single year.
Right, okay.
So to actually go up against previous winners and win really shows us it was a special award, so we're delighted.
Absolutely. And with where you see the industry going, so where the future is digitisation and all that sort of thing, what's your view of the future? Where do you see the whole industry going?
This industry just never stops surprising me, to be totally honest. I think what we're going to see in the near future is the likes of super engineers. So our engineers just now are either fire and security or security only or fire only. But actually, what we might see is super engineers, so people that not only can do fire and security, but can do HVAC, air conditioning, they can do signalling, they can do cyber, networking, comms. I think that's where we can attract engineers and we can attract talent. What we're at fear of doing is losing engineers because they move into management or get bored or run out of opportunity. If you then say to people, well, actually, you're an expert in fire and security, let's upskill you into a new sector, a new area. If you look at the likes of Marlow and JCI and McMighty, that's their verticals of their business. They don't just do fire and security, they do fire protection, they do suppression, they do plumbing, they do HVAC, and actually, I think that is an opportunity for us as a business is to support them in their training of all their verticals.
Lots of those bigger businesses are now have got those different verticals. You say HVAC, I mean, again, it's exactly the sort of pattern that we're starting to follow as well. And then you've got that one-stop provider, I think, that goes into a building and just takes care of the whole thing. And it's funny, if you look at the US market, they term a lot of the engineers as low voltage technicians, and they sit them across all the different disciplines.
We call them electrotechnical, but you're right, low voltage, and I do see that as being part of our growth strategy, which you've already indicated that you're looking at, makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
And it also allows us to serve the sector best. Because imagine if you look at like Marlow, for example, they have a quiet spell in their HVAC team, but they're all upskilled to deliver some fire and security, and they can move project across business. It just makes perfect sense, especially in a skills crisis. So that's certainly something that we want to look at and target. And what I think about the sector is it's only going to get more digital, it's going to be more AI focused. I also think that CCTV is going to just continue to develop and actually take a more front-facing role, because CCTV cameras can do things like detection.
Smoke detection,
Not just people detection, but also fire detection. Which could potentially, you could almost say that you don't need a fire alarm, you don't need an intruder alarm, because actually VSS can do it all. But I do think that's where we'll see the most development is in that sector, is in VSS.
It's truly integrated system then, isn't it? Where it all sits on the same pair.
100%. And if you look at Honeywell, for example, they've brought out this Max Pro
Yeah,
system, fully integrated intruder access and CCTV. And they're not the only model, and it's a fantastic building management system.
yeah.
If not, it's really, really impressive.
That's where it's heading to. Yeah, exactly. And so, with regards to your career, then, what's next for you?
It's interesting because honestly, when I joined Skills, I didn't know what was next, because you start a new job, you don't know where things are going. You know that you can achieve great things at Skills, but how long it's going to last, especially with the travel. Because obviously, I took a job where the office was based in Knutsford, but was
Yeah,
commuting every single week with a young family. But I'm a lot more settled now in terms of I don't need to travel as much, because things are all set up. We are a nationwide business, so we've got
yeah,
offices in Glasgow, Warrington, Watford, Birmingham, Oxford, and Mansfield. So I travel about anyway. And I'm also now an equity holder in Skills for Security, so
oh,
I
good.
have I have skin in the game, as they say. So I really see Skills for Security as the long term goal for me. I think if I go back to my original point of wanting to influence, support a sector that really changed my life, the body that can do that best is Skills for Security, and I've got no intention of leaving there ever, really. I'm going to
Is
stay
it
there.
something you see that the model can be taken overseas? Is there international expansion for skills?
It's definitely on the card, yeah. There's certainly, when we talk to our partners, CSL's an easy one because of our links with them. But if you even think of Texacom,
Yeah,
Honeywell,
yeah,
ADI's European business is worth £500 million, and that means that there's people in those countries, France, Spain, buying
yeah.
product, and therefore they need training. So yeah, there certainly will be a Skills for Spain, Skills for France, maybe in the future. But for now, there's plenty of work in the UK market, and that's where our sole focus is to grow and offer support and development.
And for the very few people in the fire and security sector, then that aren't overly familiar with skills, you're at the IFSEC again this year with the engineers of tomorrow, and then you're at the security event as well. Is that where the best place for people to get information?
100%. Yeah, so we will be attending the security event in March, and we are running a very unique, it's called the Ultimate Apprenticeship Challenge, and it's a team event.
Okay.
So teams like Mighty, Marlow, and all of our partners can submit a team of 2 to 4 to compete against each other to install systems. But what we're also doing is giving opportunity for school kids, school leavers, college leavers to come along, meet the team, and find out more about the sector. And then, like you mentioned, we're attending Engineers of Tomorrow, which is a national competition.
Yeah.
It's We've got competitors in Ireland, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Northern England, Wales, Southern England, that compete to be crowned as the World Skills UK champion. And that very much is an industry sort of leading event. And again, if any of the listeners can attend any of those events, they'd be welcome to come along and find out more about the sector.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we'll bring it up to a close. I know you want to go for a run, and but
Not during work, during my lunch.
during your lunch, of course, during your lunch. This is why we need to. Yeah, but I really do appreciate your time. It's quite evident that this football malarkey won't carry on, and everyone should become a fire and security engineer because it's a better career of choice.
Correct, that's the message.
Absolutely. Well, really do appreciate your time, and I look forward to. Well, I'll see you at one of the shows, I guess. At
Yeah, I'll
security
see you in
event
a
next
couple of
month.
weeks.
Thanks very much, David. Cheers for that.
Thanks for that. Cheers,
Thanks.
mate.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.